Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Contextual Targeting Masterclass. I'm Lucia, Coordinator at Custom, Digiday's creative content agency. Today's webinar is presented by Grapeshot. Grapeshot uses adaptive machine learning algorithms to organize large amounts of data into useful, shareable actions. Grapeshot is integrated with all major programmatic trading marketplaces. A couple of reminders. A question and answer period will follow this presentation, so please stay with us until the end. Feel free to submit questions at any time via the GoToWebinar platform. Everyone who registered for today's webinar will also receive an email with a recording of the session, so stay tuned for that. Today's webinar will cover everything you wanted to know about improving the performance of your campaign, but we're afraid to ask. We're joined today by Nicole Brodeur and Aruna Paramasivam. Nicole is the Director of Account Management at Grapeshot based in New York City. Nicole manages accounts across all of the major holding companies while also working closely with the product and marketing teams. Before joining the Grapeshot team, Nicole worked as Director of Account Management at Sticky Inc. Aruna is an ad tech veteran who has held various different roles in the industry. She currently heads up data partnerships for L'Oreal USA and was previously at MediaMax, Yahoo, and AOL. All right, let's get started. Nicole, take it away.
Well, thank you so much. So how to plan an effective contextually targeted campaign. So I'm hoping to give everyone a holistic view on how to do this, and hopefully you'll learn a few tips and tricks along the way that perhaps you haven't employed before. So to kick it off, I just want to give everyone a quick overview of Grapeshot and our live context engine, focusing in on how we look at contextual targeting and really going beyond just words. And to do this, what we really think is most important is to understand your audience and actually even allow yourself to be a little bit surprised at who that target audience should be, and brand safety. So at Grapeshot, we really believe that there isn't such a thing as being safe or unsafe, but rather being brand safe or brand unsafe. So focusing in on what being safe really should mean to you. And last, performance. So drilling into performance and doing a little bit of storytelling at the same time. So to kick this off, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information on Grapeshot's methodology. So we start with a source. Typically that source is going to be a web page, and what we're doing is extracting the most relevant keywords on that page. So we were utilizing a probabilistic algorithm to do this, and we've taken a few factors. So we're looking at the position of keywords on the page. So if a keyword appears in the title as opposed to farther down in the content, the keyword in the title would be given a greater weight. We're also looking at the frequency of keywords, so how often that keyword appears on the page. And we're also looking at the uniqueness of keywords. So if you have the word lipstick, for example, and you have the word L'Oreal, L'Oreal will be given a greater rate than lipstick. And then overall, that page is going to be given a score, and probabilistic matching takes place. But essentially, this is really just a competition between all of the categories that we have available to you, whether they be standard or custom. And we're going to return a number of categories for that specific page. So if you have a page about Tom Cruise's a new movie that's coming out, you might return categories such as celebrities, movies, and maybe a custom category that we've built out specifically about Tom Cruise's new movie. So effective contextual targeting isn't all about the words. So obviously, it's hard to talk about contextual targeting without talking about words, but context is so much more than the words on the page. Because without the words, with just the words on the page, you wouldn't really understand who's consuming it. So I still find that there's a little bit of confusion between search retargeting and contextual targeting. I don't think this confusion is as prevalent as it was 2-3 years ago, but unfortunately it still does exist. So a search keyword list is often a great starting point for building out a contextual category, but it can't be the be-all, end-all. So I would never recommend a client just mass import a search list into a custom category. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So a lot of times in a search keyword list, you'll find long phrases. You might find actually questions in that. So in a search list, you might see the question, where do I find the best lipstick in New York? Well, that makes sense for search. In context, it would be pretty unlikely to see that on an actual page. And so what we're going to actually do is extract the relevant keyword from that phrase, which is lipstick, and input that into your custom category. We also see a lot of misspellings in search lists. So in content, it'd be pretty unlikely to have misspelled words, and if there was a misspelled word on a page, you probably don't want to be offered that page to begin with. And then last, there's also a lot of repetitions in a search keyword list. And so when you really drill down to it and remove all those repetitions, you might find that there's actually only 2 or 3 unique keywords within that. And typically that might just end up being your brand. And if you're just working with your brand alone, you're really not looking into your target audience and really identifying who your audience is. And so when someone actually comes to me for a new campaign, the first question I ask them is typically, what type of content are you looking to target? But more specifically, who is your audience? And so I really need to commend L'Oreal because they've done a great job working to understand their audience and leveraging keywords to identify them. And so how we typically work together is they'll send us personas focusing on the interests, demographics, and seasonality of a campaign. And so if the interest, it might be high fashion or sports or outdoor activities. Because typically just targeting a beauty audience, for example, might not be enough. Keywords will actually allow you to drill into your specific consumer needs. So, for example, you wouldn't want to target content related to wrinkles and anti-aging for a consumer that would be more likely see a younger consumer that would be interested in beauty blogs and Kylie Jenner lip kits, for example.
Yes, that's absolutely right, Nicole, and thank you for bringing that up. I really think in certain industries like beauty, context is very important. For example, we have campaigns that are targeting moms, but we're not looking for every mom in the United States. We're looking for a very specific type of mom in the right context where she has a high affinity toward health and beauty products and would likely perhaps buy this moisturizer as a result of that. Contextual targeting has also been great in the world of competitive conquesting. We're just not giving a list of competitor names, but also search terms, ways that people would reach those types of brands and really creating a strategy around that. At L'Oreal, we spend a lot of time with our consumer insights groups to identify different personas for each of our brands and come up with who she really is. So it's not just somebody who likes a lipstick or any lipstick, it's somebody who has penchants toward bold colors or bright colors and is going to be drawn to something a little bit more bold or creative as opposed to something more subtle. So there's a lot of nuances in the type of product, the colors, the brand, the lifestyle, the price point, and using a solution like Grapeshot allows us to take all of those factors into consideration.
Thank you. So let's assume that you know your audience, or at least that you think you do. I think you also need to be open to being a little bit surprised. And so I know in our world it'd be a little bit scary to be surprised, but in order to expand your audience, you really need to do this. So we as humans aren't just one thing. So if you're a mom, you're more than just a mom. Therefore, you're interested in more than what someone has defined as mom content, such as daycare or food safety or school supplies. You might actually be interested in fashion and cosmetics. More specifically, you might actually be interested in strength training and yoga and running. And so Grapeshot Predicts has allowed us to find those connections. So if there is a strong connection between mom and strength training, and stay up to date with those trends, and also understand the seasonality of campaigns. So for example, whereas a couple months ago, outdoor running might have been a strong connection, now we might find that now that it's getting a little bit cooler, that indoor activities such as yoga are a little bit more of a popular mom activity.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And in my world, we have so many different products, and ingredients are a big piece of this. So sometimes I have something around argan oil or olive oil, and it's very nice to be able to build around that, to know to whom that is important. It may not be a regular consumer. She may not have consumed our color products, but she is very into using organic products, or it has an affinity toward olive oil. So to find her, Predicts is incredibly useful. I also feel sometimes we have personas like minimalist or green environmentalist, and again, using Predicts takes a set of keywords and really expands on that, and this is a great way for us to acquire new customers. Predicts also uses AI as opposed to lookalike modeling, which I think is a little bit old school now, so I like the fact that AI is used to actually expand on this list, and we're taking advantage of this new technology brought to the marketplace by Grapeshot.
So now that you know your audience, it's also important that you're aligning your brand with safe content. So what does brand safety mean to you? And so I alluded to this a little bit before, but at Grapeshot, we really don't believe there is such a thing as being safe or unsafe, but rather being brand safe or brand unsafe. And also, when we talk about brand safety, we're talking about contextual brand safety. I know a few years ago, contextual brand safety wasn't that much of a focus, and over the last couple months, year, it's become much more of a focus, whereas a couple of years ago, they were focused more on fraud and viewability, which also are very, very important. But when you're spending such a high CPM to make sure that your ad is viewable and it's being viewed by a human, you wouldn't want to have it appear next to content that would be unfavorable to your brand. And so recently it was hurricane season. We had a really, really bad hurricane season, and a lot of the brands that we work with were actually interested in avoiding content related to the hurricane coverage. They didn't want to have to block news entirely, but rather avoiding the hurricane content. So we were able to avoid that content for them. But with that said, we also did have a couple brands, insurance brands, that actually wanted to align themselves with hurricane content and weather content specifically because it was relevant to their brand. So we want to make sure that the agencies and brands that we're working with are in control of their brand safety. We also don't want them to have to over-restrict themselves and miss out on premium relevant content because of unsafe content existing out there. So we want to be able to do this at the keyword and URL level. And then what it all comes down to is performance. And so we want to make sure that by capturing and identifying your audience through keywords, that you're going to drive your KPIs forward. And we also want to make sure that you have a story to tell. And you're formulating that story and strategy through keywords and understanding those surprises that we talked about a little bit through Grapeshot Predicts. And so a few of these examples, I had a brand that wanted to align themselves with dating content and utilizing keywords through this, but they actually found that the keywords that were driving the best performance was astrology content. And they were able to inform future strategies, and so they can actually contextually target specifically astrology content in the future. I also had a luxury automotive brand that I've worked with that found that vintage memorabilia was actually driving the most impressions and boosting their CTR, and they were able to formulate future strategies and allocate budget towards those keywords that are telling a story and formulate that story based on the context that are performing best for them.
Yeah, I completely agree. Insights that we get from Grapeshot are very useful and have value. There's also a certain level of engagement and awareness that we get when we target on contextual keywords. Of course, everyone's ultimate KPI is always sales, but when you're telling a brand story, it's important to engage your consumer in the right way. And just like you use a funnel for targeting, it's the same funnel that you use for storytelling. You want to tell the broad story and draw them in and make it a compelling one. And using keywords really helps us do that. And also, as every brand knows, your story is always changing. There's always new products and new needs on the marketplace. And to be able to keep up with that ever-changing story, it's important to use context and not just always go for the direct word. It's so much more than just search retargeting or using a set of keywords, but really finding them in the right context. And especially in the world of beauty, where blogging has become so big and has such an influence, and beauty influencers have so much power over who is inclined to buy something over who is not. I really feel context is everything.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that through this, we've identified that first, it's really important that you're understanding your audience. And then going beyond understanding your audience, you're understanding that that audience should evolve. And the evolution is based on seasonality and the connections between keywords. Also, it's really important to be savvy about the placement of your advertisements and making sure that you're in a brand safe environment. And last, that you're always learning. And so we're hoping that through the learnings that you can have through content, it can inform future decisions.
Grapeshot.
Yeah, so I think we can open it up to some questions now.
Awesome. So the first question we got is, what is the ideal number of keywords that should be used for an effective contextual category?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's hard to say that there's an ideal number of keywords because it's all dependent on your brand and your campaign specifically. So if you have a very general keyword that there's a lot of content available on, so for example, if you're looking for football content, just by having football and maybe a team or two, they're going to have a lot of really relevant inventory available for you to target. But if you have a really specific need, a specific pharmaceutical drug, for example, if you just include that one pharmaceutical drug within your segment, whereas with football, there's just not going to be a lot of content around it. So really, it's about what keywords you're using, understanding your audience, and including both really specific keywords as well as what we call supporting keywords to increase the relevance of your segment.
Awesome. The next question, how do you stay on top of negative news?
Yeah, so in terms of brand safety, so for the majority of the clients we work with, we do employ brand monitoring. And so we're trying to stay on top of the news and making sure that if any news is trending around your brand, that we're updating those contextual segments to make sure that you're avoiding that, that type of content. At Grapeshot, we also do employ a team of linguists who are always keeping all of our segments up to date. And then also, because we use a probabilistic algorithm, we're able to identify through more general keywords if a page is safe or unsafe.
And following up with that, is your brand safety solution 100% safe?
That's an interesting question. And so I would say it's as safe as you can get. So what we're going to do is we're doing this at the keyword and page level. And so we're not doing it at the domain level, which I know some of our competitors do, and also do it at the URL level. So instead we're doing it at the specific page level, and we're identifying if that page is safe or unsafe. And we're also making sure that we're able to categorize that page. And so we're not going to allow you to be offered any inventory that we're not able to categorize.
What are some of the benefits of contextual brand safety as opposed to other brand safety solutions, such as a post-bid?
Okay. Yeah, so our brand safety is pre-bid. So what we're doing is making sure that you're never going to be offered a page to bid on that we're saying is unsafe to you. Whereas with post-bid, you're actually going to be paying for that impression and blocking it in some way. Or you might just be measuring the amount of unsafe content that's getting through. So with Grapeshot, we're making sure that you're never offered it in the first place to even bid on. Great question.
How can someone use, sorry, they're rolling in right now, so I'm just trying to get them all out there. How can someone use your prediction product or predicts product to find new target audiences, and what are the key differentiators between your brand safety segments and DV/IAS?
Okay, so I think that's two different questions. So our predict products, we're able to see connections between keywords, and we're able to input those every 24 hours. They're added to your custom category that you're targeting. And so for the example that we used, if we saw there was a strong connection between moms and fitness, that keyword would be added to your custom category, and automatically you would start being offered pages that are relevant to moms and fitness. What was the second question?
The second part of that, how can someone use that product, and then what are the key differentiators between your brand safety segments and DV/IAS?
Okay. And so I think I answered the first question, but in terms of the second question, so we are offering pre-bid brand safety, and this is happening at the page level, so at the specific URL level. So what we're going to do is crawl that page, and just like I explained at the beginning, we're going to extract the most relevant keywords, and if that page is a strong match to an unsafe segment, you won't be offered it to bid on. I can't really speak to what our competitors offer, but that's what we do.
Okay, next up we have an influencer question. How do you see your technology integrated with influencer marketing, and if at all, is it involved in native placements and ads?
The way I work with Grapeshot with influencers is we actually know who our influencers are, so we're able to provide Grapeshot with a full list of influencers around the product, as well as details around the type of people who engage with those influencers. So putting those two and two together really gives us a robust set of keywords to work with. And then on top of that, we also use Predict, so we're able to use the initial seed and project upon that using the characteristics that come up because of the influencer names that we've given.
Awesome. We're all over the place here, but how do you recommend breaking through the clutter when there's a lot of competition around keywords, such as the football example given? How do you ensure higher placements? Obviously money helps, but what other tips do you have?
Yeah. So I'm going to try to, hopefully I'm understanding that question correctly. So in terms of breaking through the clutter, I think making sure that your segment is precise. And so if you want to be aligned with not just content related to football, you want to be aligned yourself with content related to Tom Brady and the Patriots. Tom Brady and Patriots we would add to your segment, and they'd actually be given greater weight because they're more unique. So it increases the likelihood, and we can also increase the weight of them manually on our side, that you're going to be offered pages that are really specific. So if you're Under Armour and you want to be offered pages about Tom Brady specifically, we'll go ahead and make sure that that's what's happening through our contextual targeting.
Okay, and some DSP questions. You mentioned that Grapeshot is integrated with the major DSPs. Does this mean that it can be used across all websites, or do I need to contact publishers directly?
No. So we have direct integrations with most of the major DSPs. So the majority of them, I'll say, like the only major one is not DBM. But so as long as we're integrated with that DSP, you can go ahead and add us to your buy, and start utilizing all of our full suite of products.
Awesome. I think that answers a few questions we've been getting. So we'll move on to AI. I'm reading this verbatim. Someone said that Grapeshot uses AI and not lookalike models. Can you speak to how the two are different?
Yeah, so Grapeshot predicts. I think that's what we're speaking to. And so this is using a probabilistic algorithm to determine the connections between keywords. And so how we're doing this is we're actually looking at billions of pages a day, and we're seeing if there's a strong prevalence and it's trending between certain keywords, and we're aggregating that information into standard and custom contextual categories.
Given the contextual search functionality of Grapeshot, is site taxonomy and editorial keyword tagging still a critical element to ad targeting campaigns?
I'm not sure if I fully understand that question, but just to be clear, we are contextual targeting, not search targeting.
Okay, awesome. I hope that if any of you, the audience members, if you have follow-up questions, we'll be happy to get back to you. Just feel free to submit them through the GoToWebinar platform at any time. Like I said, we'll get back to you if we're not quite understanding your questions.
Sorry about that. I didn't quite understand it.
No, yeah, no, it's okay. So someone asks, if we were to create a Grapeshot segment and run that group through TTD, are we able to then get keyword-specific reporting back on that ad group?
Yeah, so our campaign analytics product is a tag-based solution, so I would recommend you reach out to myself or anyone on our team, and we can get you set up with that. And what we're going to be doing is, assuming that you're placing that tag at the creative level, for every impression served, so every time that pixel fires, we're going to extract the most relevant keywords and aggregate that into a report. And so that can actually inform your decision. So it's not just going to give you performance on keywords within a segment that you're targeting, but rather for every impression served, we're going to collect information so you can actually discover future context that would work out really well for a future campaign.
And that perfectly leads into the next question. How does Grapeshot help me discover new keywords and content that I should target? And does Grapeshot give trending topics around that to, point out and spot new possibilities?
Yeah, so Grapeshot Predicts is a great way to expand your audience. Typically, our Predict segments see about 2x the size of scale as a static, custom, or standard segment because we're going to be automatically, every 24 hours, pulling in those additional keywords, and you're going to be automatically targeting that relevant, up-to-date, trending content. And then also with our keyword reporting / campaign analytics, because you're seeing a connection between what keywords are performing best, you can actually integrate those high-performing keywords into either existing segments or new custom segments.
Awesome. So that's about it for the Q&A. Like I said before, all attendees, you will receive a recording of the webinar, and so look out for that in your inboxes tomorrow. But thank you again to Nicole and Aruna, and of course, our partner, Grapeshot, and thank you all for joining us today. We hope you learned something. Thanks again, and please enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.